I visited Hilltop at RHS Wisley for the 2025 Fern and Carnivorous Plant Fair. The event brings together the UK's leading experts, societies and growers for a weekend of botanical insight. Visitors can explore stalls from the British Pteridological Society, the Exotic Fern Group and the Carnivorous Plants Society, offering a glimpse at rare species, providing cultivation advice and propagation techniques. There are live talks providing expert information on growing both ferns and carnivorous plants, as well as hands-on activities for younger visitors to engage with prehistoric plant forms by making their very own fern fossils. Guided tours offer expert access to the key plants that can be viewed around the garden, as well as in the glasshouse. Whether you're interested in expanding your fern or carnivorous plant collection, want to improve your growing skills, or are simply looking for a fun day out for the family, the fair delivers an enjoyable day out filled with practical knowledge and inspiration rooted in decades of horticultural expertise. I spoke with Matthew Reeve from the Exotic Fern Group to find out a bit more about the society and the ferns that he grows.
I'm Matthew Reeve and I'm one of the co-leaders of the Exotic Fern Group. The Exotic Fern Group is a UK-based plant society which is interested in non-native ferns. That's generally ferns which grow in glass houses, ferns which you can use as house plants, and exotic looking ferns in the garden as well. And we've got members in the UK and we've got members from all over the world. It's free to join. All you need to do is go to exoticferngroup.org on the internet and you can subscribe there, and you'll get a newsletter once every few months and you'll get invites to talks, online presentations and also face-to-face meetings. We do a monthly chat as well, so our members can connect and share their ferning exploits. So this selection of ferns here is typically ferns you might find in the garden centre which are sold as houseplants. And probably one of the common ones you'll often find is the maidenhair fern, which most people, it's their first fern they try, but tends to be one of the harder ferns to actually keep. Just because it needs such consistent conditions, both in watering and also in temperature. So in the home, that can be a trickier, especially if you've got radiators or conditions are changing throughout the seasons, it can be a little bit tricky as a houseplant. But we find if you have very consistent watering regime, keep it away from radiators and give it some decent light without it being too direct, then you can have good success. One thing that people often don't know about maidenhair ferns is that if they really like them, then there is actually plenty of maidenhairs which grow well in the garden as well. So you've got a few species which do very well as garden plants and exceptionally hardy. So if you're not having luck with the maidenhair in the home, then look at some of the Himalayan species which actually will do really well in the garden. We've got a selection here of Boston ferns, and these actually form part of our logo for the Exotic Fern Group. These are really good houseplants. One of the issues people find is that they tend to, as the fronds die, they will drop the little pinnules, the little leaflets, and that's absolutely normal. So it's just a matter of keeping on top of that. But if there's new fronds growing, the fern is perfectly healthy. So if you don't like that drop though, then a good fern to look at is the phlebodiums, which are naturally epiphytic ferns, so it means that they grow on trees, and they have very thick rhizomes. You see the rhizomes there? And those rhizomes will store water, which means that they can get away with being a little bit less consistent with the watering, so they can easily recover if there's a shortage of water. So we've got various aquatic ferns on display today as well, and you can get any of these aquatic ferns from aquarium shops, quite easy to get hold of. One is often called the Java fern, which is Microsorum terapus. The actual correct botanical name now is Leptochilus terapus. And these ferns will grow in warm to tropical conditions underwater. They'll also all grow above water as well, but you'd need to have a terrarium, which is very high humidity environment. So an example of this is a very similar fern here growing in a jar. It's got a very high humidity environment in there. Seen some floating ferns here. And this is Salvinia oblongifolia, which is the largest salvinia. This will actually even get nearly to 2 inches long, and the smallest salvinia is Salvinia minima, which is on the surface there as well. And these ferns actually have specialised fronds, so one frond will actually float on the surface, and then what look like roots underneath are actually specialised fronds which act like roots, and they go under the water. This is a terrarium, and this has a higher humidity, so this is good for smaller ferns and ferns which like high humidity environments. It's important that your terrarium has a light, because often people think of them as being very shady plants, but they still need sunlight, especially in a dark corner of the house. In these jars, we've got some filmy ferns, and these are very delicate ferns. Basically, the fronds are about 1 cell thick. Again, need super high humidity environments.
There are several hardy ferns growing around the grounds of Wisley, such as Polystichum polyblepharum, which is an evergreen fern which can grow up to 1 metre in height, with erect fronds covered in golden hair-like scales. It tolerates most soil types, full or part shade, and is completely hardy in the UK. Tom Bellamy from the Exotic Fern Group took the time to speak to me about his passion for growing staghorn ferns.
My name's Tom, I'm from Windsor, and what I've done is I've set up a collection of Platycerium. It started some years ago when I was living in Australia, and then I came back to the UK, went out to go and find some Platycerium and found that there was pretty much none available in the UK. The only variety you could get was called Platycerium bifurcatum, and from there I sort of went looking further afield and found that there was quite a big market in Asia. So through really a little bit of trial and error, I found nurseries that were willing to supply plants to the UK. It's important they come with a phytosanitary certificate, and everything is sort of DEFRA checked when it arrives. And then I really just started growing from there, and I started with a relatively small number, and through the production of spore I then started cultivating that spore myself to be able to grow some of the specimens that you've got here. This is just a very small little snippet of what I've got back at home. So for example, up here this is Platycerium coronarium, and these come from Indonesia. So what I've managed to do is collect some of the spore from plants such as this, and then if you come down to here, this is some spore I've laid in. This is essentially soil, but what I try to use is black peat compost, which I then sterilise. So you sterilise the soil in the microwave, or you can cook it in the oven, and then you basically very lightly sow the spore over the surface. It takes a long time. It takes about 6 months to grow a little plant the size of your little fingernail, and from there they just progress to become bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I pot them up, and then some of them I sell, other ones I rear on.
Wisley is a great place to visit if you want to see examples of tender tropical ferns. One of the tropical ferns you can find growing in the glasshouse is Asplenium bulbiferum, or the hen and chicken fern, due to the small plantlets that grow on the upper surface of its fronds, each one capable of forming a new plant. This makes a popular houseplant requiring indirect light, high humidity and consistent moisture. I spoke to Dennis Balston from the Carnivorous Plants Society to find out more about joining the society, as well as tips for growing these fascinating plants.
Hi, my name is Dennis Balston. I'm a past chair of the Carnivorous Plants Society. The society was formed in 1978, so we're coming up to our 50th anniversary shortly. And so the aim of the society is to promote the growing of carnivorous plants to protect their natural habitats and protect species. So we do talks for garden clubs, horticultural societies. We do shows like this one. We've done Chelsea in the past, and we have open days at people's gardens. You can join the society online from our website at www.cps.org.uk. Costs £20 a year. 35 years ago, Carol, my wife, just said on the radio there was a Specialist Plant Society show and sale at Tiverton in Devon, where we live. let's go to that. So I went to that, and I was interested in old pines at the time, and I bought a few. And I saw this odd flower at the back of somebody's stand, and I bought it, didn't know what it was, cost me £4. Took it home, looked it up, and found this plant was carnivorous. So then you go to the library, get a book on the subject, and then you find that there is a society, so you join the society. And after a few years, you join the committee, and then the chair has a stroke, and on the basis that nobody else wanted to do it, I became chair, where I got to meet David Attenborough, who is a patron of the International Carnivorous Plants Society. So, then your collection grows and grows and grows, and you end up with 3 or 4 greenhouses, and that's how it goes. North American pitcher plants. There are 9 species, some subspecies, natural forms, man-made hybrids, man-made different varieties. So they're totally hardy. You don't need to feed them because they feed themselves. They're bog plants, so you need to stand them in water all the time. They need a cold winter dormancy, so you can have them in your house over the summer and a very sunny winter, so if you like. In the winter they need to go outside, so they'll go dormant. And for most of them, in about February, you cut all the top growth off, all of it, and will then produce new pitchers and flower. Very easy. That's a new one called Zip. Don't buy it on eBay because they go for about 30, 40, 50 pounds on eBay. They're in garden centres now. Some garden centres will sell you one for a tenner.
In the glass house at Wisley, you can see a lovely tropical species of carnivorous plant called Nepenthes ventricosa, which is a pitcher plant native to the Philippines. It's known for its ease of cultivation and attractive traps. It grows best as a houseplant, with bright indirect light, high humidity, nutrient-poor soil, and distilled or rainwater. Although I didn't speak to anyone from the British Pteridological Society on this occasion, you can find my previous interview in my video on the Gardener's World Spring Fair. The link is in the description. If you're interested in finding out more about growing carnivorous plants, then my interview with Matt Soper is also in the description. To find out more about growing tree ferns, check out my recent video, for which the link is in the description. And finally, if you would like to learn more about the temperate and tropical ferns that you can find in Kew Gardens, the link to this video is also in the description. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing and turn on notifications. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram or X for video updates as well as my flower of the day. And you can email me at freyastropicalgarden@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out my website at freyastropicalgarden.co.uk, where you can find a range of information including public gardens that I've visited and information on plants that have been shown on my videos. I've had so much fun making this video, but if you'd like to make a contribution towards running costs, you can do so via PayPal.